Welcome to Attention Talk Video, where we pay attention to attention. Now, here's your host, Jeff Copper.
Welcome, everybody, to this edition of Attention Talk Video. I'm cognitive engineer and ADHD coach, Jeff Copper. Today, I want to talk about urges. I think too often people with ADHD, sometimes they're looking for answers in all the wrong places. They spend a lot of time on focusing on motivation as something that they want to do. At the end of the day, motivation is actually what you actually do. So if there's something that you should do, but you're doing something else, it's really kind of easier if you adjust the environment such a way to make it easier to do what you should do. So for example, I talk about this a lot. Exercise by itself is tedious, repetitive, and boring. Often, if you're doing it in the company of other people or in community or with podcasts, you've got something that's stimulating your brain sufficient to where your brain is actually occupied on that, and exercise is a secondary activity. I have a lot of people that talk about, hey, I need to establish good routines and stuff like that. And so here's the purpose of this video. Have you ever thought what an urge is? An urge is a strong desire. Our desires in the form of urges are really kind of amazing because when you really study them, almost everything that you do is kind of on urge. So for example, as we're talking, I'm noticing I have a bottle cap right here that I'm pushing my finger in. Why am I doing that? I have the urge to do it. Now, urges are really something that we're going to something that feels good, or we're escaping something that's uncomfortable. I don't know why, but you're noticing my head going back and forth. Why am I doing that? Kind of an urge. Have you ever noticed that you scratch yourself? Why do you do that? Well, to relieve the discomfort, to feel better. Have you ever noticed you have the urge to pee or the urge to get a drink? What are you doing? You're escaping discomfort. A lot of your urges are actually survival mechanisms. Have you ever noticed at night that you change positions? Why is that? Well, for me, being an athlete for a long period of time, I got like a lot of gristle, not fat, not muscle, but gristle, and it doesn't get a lot of blood. And when I'm laying down, the blood gets cut off and I get uncomfortable. So I have to move to seek comfort. I would argue if you stopped and really try to pay attention to yourself, that you're acting on urges every couple of minutes. Like I noticed my head went down like that, or you might adjust your glasses. Sometimes it's better to see, but also sometimes it's more comfortable, or twirl your hair, or bobble your leg, or play with a paper clip. I think we think of urges more really as I have the urge to go get a drink or do something else, but our urges are very, very subtle. So here's the thing. Have you ever really sat there and recognized how hard it is to resist an urge, or better yet, how often you surrender yourself to the urge? Recently, it's interesting because I'm in a little band and we were playing a gig somewhere, and all of a sudden my nose started to itch. And there's about 45 seconds left in the song. And, you know, like anything, I'm sitting there like, oh my God, the more I pay attention to it, the more it itches. And at one point in time, I've surrendered myself and just stopped playing in order to scratch that itch to relieve myself. What's my point? I think too often people with ADHD, they're coming in and they're looking at addressing ADHD as if they can override their urges all the time. What I would argue is a lot of times you need to adjust the environment. So one common thing that I'm finding a lot of is everybody has the urge to go to social media in the face of anything that's discomfort. Like something that's boring. Like think about it. You're in the DMV line back in the old days, or the doctor's office. I was crawling out of my skin. Now everybody's on their phone. It's a pacifier. But more importantly, when you've got a project to do, something that requires a lot of heavy thinking that's uncomfortable, you'll notice there is an urge to escape. So one of the tricks really is you're doing some of this stuff is recognize it ain't easy just to will your way through this. And a lot of times it's about adjusting the environment to remove those temptations. And the stuff that's uncomfortable, whether it's thinking of boredom, you got to find ways to spice it up or make the thinking easier. So this isn't quite what most people are looking for when they're looking in terms of tips. They're just saying, hey, do this. But what I'm trying to say is that if you really pay attention, anything that you're doing that is fly in the face of an urge where you're expected to override that discomfort, I think you'll be surprised that more often than not, you're going to surrender yourself to it. Even Dr. Barkley says willpower is a finite resource. You can do it for a little bit, but not a lot. So I encourage you. The mindset is not put yourself in a situation and don't think that you're going to be able to override your urges every day. Again, not a solution, but if you're not paying attention to that when you're trying to come up with solutions, I think you're going to find a lot of them, they're not going to work. So I hope that gives you pause for thinking. If you're new to our channel, please hit the like button. If you're been with us for a while, please comment, like us, do whatever. We try to really get to the hard hitting stuff, not the easy gimmicks. And so I just need your help keeping me up in the ratings. So with that, I hope you've enjoyed this edition of Attention Talk Video. Take care.